Hello and welcome to the latest episode and indeed series on leadership and culture in healthcare. My name is Matthew Winn, the podcast host. We are on to series 4, and this series we are delving into and understanding more local government in the English system and its interrelationships, its fault lines, its symmetry and alignment with healthcare. Now, some of you will say, well, what's that got to do with the NHS? Surely there's a difference between local authority work and the NHS. And in that respect, that is true. They are separate organisations. Local authorities, let me just explain the technicalities, I guess, whether you are a shire county where you have a county council, for instance, that has upper council responsibilities, things like schools, adult social care, children's services, but they may have other councils in their areas called district councils who are in charge of spaces, who are in charge of housing, who are in charge of local issues that the county council are not involved with. Other areas, you have unitary councils that do the totality of local government all in one organisation. And therefore, the arrangements across England are not identical. They are different, and there are different dynamics and different reasons for engaging with different types of local government organisation. So let's start with a view on what we need to do from the NHS, from the healthcare world, to work with local government and why it's important. So firstly, the local councils have a democratic mandate. They run through a network and an arrangement of councillors being elected by local people to represent them and their views and their political persuasions on the councils. They are then responsible, working with their officers who are employed, to undertake the work of local government. And that work in relation to the NHS is really varied. So let's just think about some of those areas. Firstly, the easy one that everybody will know about, adult social care. Adult social care covering adults with disabilities, learning disabilities, mental health issues, and then a lot of the expense being focused on those who are frail and their responsibility underneath the Care Act to assess and provide care for local residents, especially manifesting in things like packages of domiciliary care support for people that need social support, or indeed for those that are unable to pay for their own placements, moving into a residential or nursing care, some of which is paid for by the NHS. So that's a big chunk, and that is often associated with discharging from hospital and supporting people to be well at home. But that's not the only thing. There then are children's services. Children are an increasing cost to local government. There have been many reports recently about the problems councils are facing. The councils are facing problems associated with education spaces, special education spaces, and schools and provision and staff to cope with children with higher needs. And also the packages of support for people with complex disabilities and those with a whole array of behavioural and mental health issues that are not necessarily the responsibility of the NHS, but fall to local government. I am aware of local directors who describe packages of care costing them eye-watering amounts per week, both in care settings, both in care at home, and sometimes, sadly, unregulated care organisations to provide care because those services are just not available elsewhere. And we know that those things are causing councils immense distress financially and also operationally as corporate parents for a whole range of children in any locality. I think, thirdly, the area that we see regularly from the NHS is around safeguarding children and adults, statutory functions. Both the Children's Director and the Adult Director of Social Care hold responsibility under statute for those local areas, really key fundamental issues that the councils will undertake, removing children from the care of those that they live with, whether that's parents, whether that's other relatives, and that's all also associated with safeguarding approaches and works hand in glove with the NHS and social workers and courts to make sure that children are protected and that is maintained. And the same is true for adults, older people, and those who haven't got the capacity to make their own decision as well. And then the fourth area is, I guess, some of the associated elements of the public health world. Quite a few years now that responsibility shifted from being in the NHS to local government. There is a grant that comes out from the Department of Health each year. Often those are spent on the core statutory functions within that public health grant, and that's often drug and alcohol services. That would be health visiting, school nursing type services, and it would also be contraception and sexual health services, which probably take up the lion's share of that grant from into local government from central government. But it's not the only thing that the public health world is interested in. They are very much the key leaders and thought policy people about how do we drive up improvements in health? How do we improve the outcomes for our local population? How are they working with business, with education, with the leisure services, with communities to ensure that we sort out obesity, we sort out developmental issues for children, and so they turn and have the opportunity to become great functioning adults in future life. The other area that is shared between the public health world and the NHS is very much around preventative care. And that may be oral health, it may be immunisation and vaccination, absolutely crucial for newborns and infants, but also for school-aged children. And the success of some of our vaccines has been just truly outstanding over the years, especially for girls and young females in school who have had vaccines, HPV vaccines, which is beginning to make a huge impact on disease not happening for them. And then I guess the final area where it then becomes a real mix of local government responsibility, plus I would say broader societal responsibilities, but also the NHS, is in overall lifestyle, making sure our environments are healthy, making sure that we have every opportunity to live healthy and good lives. And that has everything to do with their planning processes. That has to do with developmental controls that they put into new housing. Obviously, a hot topic at the moment with the government intending to build millions of homes over the course of this government. Also, it has everything to do with the provision of leisure services and being able to say, for instance, people to cycle rather than take cars, people to be able to walk to spaces safely, again, rather than using their own vehicles, and cut down on emissions. All of that, therefore, brings together how in the public realm, in between local government and the NHS, we do things together. But sadly, sometimes we don't do those things together. And in the episodes that will follow over the following weeks in this series, I'm going to be unpacking with chief executives who are well known for working councils to do great work, but also are known for working with their colleagues. And I want to get underneath the skin with those leaders about what's the differences in leadership within local government versus the NHS. What skills do they need to be working in collaboration? Because sometimes it's not a direct control, it's not a lever that can be pulled, but it is a partnership, and it is an intent that they bring together with other public sector partners to coalesce and to convene and bring people to a joint approach. And then I guess the final bit is, what are they looking ahead at? What are they thinking are the opportunities, and how might they as leaders kind of undertake that? And as a result, what can we learn from that in the NHS in terms of our leadership approach and how does healthcare respond. So I hope the series will be really interesting for you all. You will hear maybe some familiar but some unfamiliar names and voices for those that are kind of very much steeped in the NHS world. And I hope it will shine a light on what is surely a fundamental and important set of relationships that any healthcare provider or arranger of care from integrated care boards or commissioners at a national or local level need to make sure our population are getting the right things. Tune in more every other Wednesday. We'll be posting at 7 a.m. in the morning. So please get that on your to-do list, get it onto your Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your accounts, and you can listen to the latest conversations. And I hope you enjoy it. And as ever, let me know any feedback on things that you would like to hear more. And thank you for listening. Bye for now.